And so for your paintings, it's going to be up to you for your size. You can go up to about 24 by 18. I might need to make them a little smaller depending on how much canvas we have, but it's always better to size your document bigger and then make it smaller later. So you'll create a new one. Obviously, make sure that you have good high resolution. So I'm going to change this 18 by 24. Maybe I want to switch it. It'll be easier for you guys to see. So there's going to be a handful of new tools, and the most exciting one is the paintbrush. And remember, anytime that you see these little white boxes, or sometimes on the Finder windows, they're black boxes, it's telling you that there's something else in there. So then if I hold down my left mouse button, I get the additional the brush tools, the pencil tool, which you've used for your pixel art, color replacement tool, and a mixer brush tool. We'll get to the mixer brush tool in a minute. It's pretty cool. So the main brush tool, when you select that, up in your control palette, you get your options that relate to that particular brush, or that particular tool. You can click here to see sizes, to adjust the hardness of your brush, and also to see your brushes. Now, automatically loaded typically are the basic brushes. So when you first come in, you'll see something like this, just a basic set of brushes. There's a lot more brushes available in Photoshop. There are brushes that you can download. You can even make a custom brush, which I can show you later. So to get to the additional brushes, like, say if you don't just want, to show you what these basic ones look like, it's just a basic clean line. The edges, even if I make it nice and big, the edges are nice and clean. I need everybody following along with this, and I hear conversations going on. So even if this is review for you, this is for this class, so please focus. So you get nice clean lines with the basic brushes. The hardness turned all the way up, you get a nice hard edge. Turn it down, and you get a softer, more blurred edge. But say you want a more interesting brush, you want some texture. That's one of the great things about Photoshop, is you can really get visual texture with Photoshop because of its layering and opacity and brush capabilities. So for that, you just go to this little gear in the brush palette, and there's all of these right here are different menus of brushes. So there's assorted brushes. When it comes up, it'll either ask you to hit OK or append. OK will replace the brushes that you had in there with the new set. So that way, if you know you just want to use these, you can hit OK. If you don't want to, if you want to still keep your basic ones, then instead of saying append, you just hit OK, and then it will just add them. Nope, I lied. It's the other way around. I lied to you. So if you hit append, it will add it to the end of your list. If you hit OK, it will replace it with your list. So there are some really unique and cool and unusual brushes. Once you're in your paintbrush menu, you have what's called a contextual menu, which if you right-click anywhere on your document, you get the basic size and hardness and shapes of the brushes. So there are some that are shapes. That's kind of tiny and hard to see. So there are some that are preset like pictures. You might use those, but I wouldn't just, oh, here it's snowing, right? But you can create, snow using smaller ones, bigger ones. So some of these are a little more kind of clip art style, but if used well, you can certainly play around with them. And so when you start, I really just recommend experimenting. What happens when I do this? What's going on with this brush? And trying your different brushes, seeing what they do, seeing what you think about them.
Use the grass one. I like that.
Okay. And some of these, like these brushes, have a lot of textures in them that you don't see unless you get close up. Guys, we still have about 5 minutes, so I would prefer everyone just sit tight and follow along. So the grass brushes, is that in basic brushes?
Oh, I don't know.
Let's see. Oh, it's in a special set. So I encourage you to check out these different types of brushes. There's calligraphy brushes. If you're using them with your graphic tablet, you may also notice, and if you don't notice this, talk to me because we can set your graphic tablet, that the pressure of how hard or soft you draw on your tablet will affect the brush itself. Yep, so we can set it that way. Okay, there's all different kinds of dry media brushes, so it depends on what you're looking for. But if you're looking for, to create a duplication of some sort of actual painting technique, like these are dry media brushes, right? So it's not a lot of paint comes off of them because it would be dry. You can also affect the opacity of the brush. And doing that, then when you go back over it, you get more of that layering like real paint, how it starts to build up upon itself. You can affect the flow, which is how much paint comes out of the brush. So if you want to soften it, you can turn that down. And then you can use everything else that you've learned about layers, about compositing, to enhance your painting. So I definitely don't recommend for your main paintings that you just bring it in and paint on the background. At the very least, I always like to do different pieces of my painting in different layers. That gives me more flexibility to move things around. So that starts with the paintbrush. On Monday, we'll look at the mixer brush and remind you about the paint bucket and some shape tools and some other kind of drawing tools that'll help you as well. So as you're thinking about this, start thinking about something that's inspired by the visual culture in your life, something that you wish was part of your visual culture in your life, right? You are making a painting for you or for someone, right, that'll make you happy, that you want to have in your visual field. So as you're starting to plan and think what you're going to do, think what do you want to see? We're going to print these on canvas. You can use existing work for a reference, but I do not want you to see, what I don't want to see is you make a direct duplicate of a painting that already exists. You can be inspired by a painting that already exists and maybe do a new spin on it. Like here's a perfect example of taking something that already exists but making it new and our own is like the idea that the art club came up for the Chalk Art Festival mural. It's going to be a night picture of Westminster High School with Van Gogh's Starry Night Sky above it. So they're taking that idea from Van Gogh, but they're not just recreating his painting. Okay? So it's okay if you use something, but if you find maybe a really beautiful painting of an animal, then change up the background. Okay? Don't just recreate the painting that's there. I want you to create something that's more original, but it's like we've talked about it, it's okay to appropriate and use other things. You might choose for your reference to collage the pieces in the background and then paint, from that, paint with that in the background as a reference. You can do it freehand, you can bring it in and use the reference straight in Photoshop. That'll be up to you. So start thinking over the weekend, and then on Monday I'll give you a few more tools, and then you guys are going to be ready to bust out your paintings. Okay? Questions? All right. Thank you guys.